I think to get to where we want to go into that belief that we really need, we've got to focus on making ourselves a better person. So one of the things that I really like is this is, if we're trying to improve, we usually add something. I think that's in order to get really good at something, we got to add something every day. And I think in order to get great, I think we got to remove something.
Faster than a speeding bullet.
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
More powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus. Resilient. Highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings with a single bound.
Hey guys, Jared Moon here from the Better Humanology podcast, and I'm super excited for our guest today, who is Dr. Rob Bell. He is a sports psychology coach. Dr. Bell has worked with winners on the PGA and Nationwide Tours. He's caddied at over 20 events on professional golf tours. He's author of multiple books. He's been featured on ESPN, the Golf Channel, Runner's World, New York Times, and Stack Magazine. He knows everything there is to know about mental toughness, and that is our primary topic for today. We're really diving into the topic of mental toughness, which is one of my personal favorites. But before we hear what he has to say, I do want to say head over to betterhumanology.com, where we actually have some mental toughness resources that you can access when you sign up for a free membership. So if you find today's podcast interesting, make sure you check out betterhumanology.com, sign up for a free membership, and then access some of those mental toughness resources. All right, guys, let's talk to Dr. Rob Bell about mental toughness. Well, hey, Dr. Bell, it's great to finally have you on the show. I was super pumped to have you on talking about mental toughness today. You sent me your book a little while back. I read it, and I couldn't wait to get you on the podcast. So welcome to the Better Humanology podcast.
Jared, man, the pleasure is mine. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, man, I'm really looking into it. Mental toughness is, at the end of the show, we ask everyone about mental toughness. It's a huge part of what I believe in, making people a better human, kind of what the podcast is all about in a sense. So I'm really glad to have you and talk about it and dive into mental toughness. But as I mentioned, you sent me your book, The Hinge, and I kind of want to focus our conversation around the book because you have some pretty awesome concepts. So I just want to make sure that's okay with you first before we get started.
Absolutely.
All right, so I think I should start by kind of explaining the hinge. So in your book, you have this metaphor that a door is representing mental toughness, and the handle represents a specific action, and the hinge being the moment or event, a person that can connect the two. Can you elaborate on that concept a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that every door has a hinge, and what I say is a door without a hinge is a wall. It just doesn't work. And what I've seen in my own life and in really successful people's lives is that it only takes one. And it really does. It's only going to take one person, one moment, or one event that makes all the difference in our lives. Now, here's the thing, is we don't know when that's coming. And, those are the hinge moments, because from those moments on, everything is different. And a lot of times those are positive events. Unfortunately, sometimes they're negative events. If we look at the tragedies, like the really bad stuff that's happened in our life, that shaped us to who we've become, because from that moment on, everything is different. And the way that I see it, it's just, again, it only takes one. That's what we're really getting ready for. So I don't care how bad things are in our lives, it's only going to take that one moment to turn everything around, and that's the importance of mental toughness. And the other thing, I mean, sometimes it can go the other way. I think the better that we get, the more importance mental toughness is off the field than it is on the field, because those off the field things about being a better person really become so important, because it can go the other way as well, and it has for me, that the door can come off the hinges at times.
Okay, so I want to talk about that a little bit before we move forward. So you're saying, if you've kind of got it figured out in performance on the field, you're saying the mental toughness aspect of off the field becomes more important.
It really is. I mean, it's being able to manage distractions and keep our identity and our role separate. A lot of the times, I mean, we're so invested in what we do that it becomes our identity, and that can be a problem, because then there's never an off switch, and that's all people see us as. And, so many times, like if we look at any great athlete that didn't make it, chances are it was an off-the-field problem that happened. They didn't have the right coach, and they didn't have the right people around them, or they just made a mistake.
Okay, yeah, that makes total sense. I can really connect with that, too, as someone who tries to push myself and get overly focused in what I'm doing as opposed to, focused on being more mentally well-rounded in other aspects of my life. So I can really connect with that. But one thing I want to talk about is you cover some skills people need for mental toughness, and some of the things, I'll just list them. You say confidence, faith, motivation, focus, and refocus. And I love all of them. They all, really stuck with me. But the one I wanted to talk about is refocus. And can you elaborate on that concept a little bit more? Because I don't think a lot of people probably know about that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I always say, like, look, everybody can focus, but the refocus, it's the second most difficult mental skill. And the reason why it's second most difficult, because it's the second most important. And this is the thing, is we're going to make mistakes. We're going to mess up. And that's not the point. The point is how easily we can forget about that mistake and to move on. And I use the example, especially in the book, talking with Dan Jansen was fascinating. And he had, going into his last Olympics, having not won a gold medal, although was the favorite and the world record holder, he went into 2 races. In his first race that he was favored at, he didn't medal. And he's on the warm-down bike, and his coach comes in and he tells him he's at the Olympics. And he says, look, he says, it sucks. But you've got the 1,000 that's coming up in 2 days, and you got to let it go, and you got to let it go right now. And then he went out there to the media waiting to talk to him, and he said, look, I let it go on the bike. And then he goes out his very last Olympic race and wins, the gold medal. He couldn't write a better story. And I use that example, but there's so many of them. It's not about the setback. It's about the comeback. And what I see is that one mistake, one mess up, and we shut down. We can't rebound, and we can't refocus after that. And that's why I say it's the second most important mental skill.
I completely agree with that. And something that in my own life that I could relate that to. So when I was in the Air Force, I was in pilot training, and a lot of the things that one of the things that they taught us was you have to have like a 5-second memory when you're like on your check rides and stuff, because there'd be guys who get in the airplane or the aircraft, and they might they're on a check ride, they have to pass to be able to move on in pilot training, and they mess up something on takeoff. And now they have an hour-long flight before they come back, and they think in their mind that they've already failed the flight, and they're focused on that. And so that's something the instructors really beat into our head was, look, you gotta forget about that because your performance is going to suffer. And I know that was a really tough mental, like they would tell us that, but you said it's the second hardest one to master. I completely agree, because they could tell us that all day, but you have to really practice and become better at being able to forget about a mistake and just keep moving forward.
Yeah, without a doubt. There's always a most important play, and that's this one.
Right.
And I tell people, and what I try to teach, and even myself, we're not working on our game, working on ourselves, but is to respond, don't react. I really don't know how much control we have over our reaction, but we've got 100% control of our response, and that's what matters. That's what we need to work on.
I really like that. And what is you said refocus is the second most important, so what's the most important skill?
Well, I was going to ask if this wasn't a podcast, I'd say, well, what do you think? But I think without a doubt it's confidence and belief in ourselves and that those around us and what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's another tough one, but they're both really great. And I love the whole concept of refocus. I think that's an amazing takeaway to get from the book.
I appreciate that.
And so I do want to move into, this is something we do a lot of experiments in the Better Humanology podcast, whether it's, a workout program or a piece of equipment or technology. And sometimes when we're doing stuff that we have to ingest or whatever, there's the placebo effect
yes.
that could come into play, whether or not it actually works or if it's just, did you get the placebo? And I'm really fascinated with it because it's something I pointed out a long time ago is if I do something for this podcast and I feel like it's made me better, it's had a positive impact in my life, and the problem I was trying to solve is solved, but the pill I was taking or whatever didn't have anything in it but sugar, then it almost doesn't matter, because the power of the mind, the placebo effect is what's going on there. I would love to get your opinion on that as a professional, your opinion on the placebo effect, and then I want to know if you think it's something that can be harnessed or within our control.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's I live here in Indianapolis, and they've got one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies, Eli Lilly, that's housed here. So right now they're doing cancer treatments. So they're giving half the people the drug that's going to supposedly help them, and then they're giving half of the people the placebo, the sugar pill. And out of the half that are getting the placebo pill, 30% are going to get better. And so the question is, does it work? Yeah, it works. And that's the power of the mind and the belief. And a lot of times, and they even did research with athletes who were getting injections, and then they stopped actually getting the injections of the performance enhancer, but kept getting the injections, and it still showed the same exact results. The placebo effect really comes down to, hey, does it work for you? And that's the thing. I think we need to believe in something. Every one of us needs to believe in something. A lot of times it's easier to believe in stuff that's out of our control. I try to teach us that, we got to focus on the stuff that's in our control. And you know what? It really is effective. I think the biggest example really comes down to Roger Bannister. I mean, Roger Bannister, when he broke the 4-minute mile, something that could never be done, in 16 months' time, 10 other people had done that.
Yeah, that's crazy. I love that.
And the only reason why is because of kind of that thing. It showed them that it could be done, so it instilled that belief in other people. And the placebo effect is just proof on the power of confidence and the power of belief. If we think it's going to work, it's going to work.
So do you think things like visualization, which can create a lot of confidence in yourself, are that's the first step maybe to try kind of harnessing that power?
I think visualization is absolutely crucial. And it's probably the weakest skill of my own that I do. So I try to really focus on what are the stories that I'm telling myself, and what are the stories that we're telling ourselves. And because the stories that we tell ourselves can either lift us up or they can tear us down. And the story that I think one way or another that we have to keep telling ourselves is to keep fighting, just one more. And a lot of times that's a story that when we get it, it really clicks in. If there's the first skill that I think we all need to work on is our why. Why are we doing what we do? Mm-hmm. There's only one kiss of death I've ever ran into, and that is I'm good at it. Because it's not deep enough. I think our why has to make us cry, and if it doesn't, it's just not our why. We've really got to get in touch with why are we doing what we do? Because it's going to be tough, and once that struggle hits, we've got to be prepared.
And so you're saying the kiss of death is saying I'm good at it, I'm kind of no longer progressing. Is that what you meant by that?
Well, no, what I meant was if I ask somebody well, why do you play baseball, or why do you do what you do? Well, you know what? I'm just good at it.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
So talent, and what life teaches us and what mental toughness teaches us is that tenacity is more important than talent. I would take somebody with tenacity over talent any day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, some people might not even know that they're talented, and they don't have the work ethic that's there, and I completely agree. And so you're talking about being good at baseball, which kind of how I want to shift into the next topic, and that's talking about athletic performance a little bit, because we have a lot of guys on the podcast who train, got coaches, and they train themselves, and a lot of military guys as well that could probably benefit from this, and that's kind of your stance on rituals or habits before a workout, competition, event, or whatever, something that someone's doing. How do you feel about rituals?
Yeah, I never call them rituals, and I never call them superstitions. I just call them routines.
Okay.
And the reason why is because I think a ritual is something that we absolutely have to do.
Okay.
Where a routine is more of a theme. It's a guideline. This is how I prepare. This is how I get centered, and this is how I get ready. And what I mean by that is we all have routines when we wake up in the morning, we kind of do the same exact thing, and we drive the same route. And because what it does is allows us to kind of shut off the mind and just act. So I do call it routines. But to get to your point, it's the single most important thing that we can do in the moment is to focus on our routine, because it gets us focused on the process and the next play or the next movement or the next route that we're trying to do. And that's the importance of our routines is we've got to have something that helps us refocus, and we've got to have something that helps us just get centered right here and right now, and to help us be wherever our feet are.
That's great. And do you have any advice for, like, what if someone doesn't have one at all? Do you have any, advice on creating one, or does it matter what it is? Could it be anything for developing your routine?
I think with the routine, it's got to be simple. Simple is powerful, and there's got to be something physical to it. And I always say there's got to be a breath to it. There's got to be a deep breath. That's always the best way to get centered and to have a quick routine. If I'm working with any kind of sport, I want to know where their eyes go, and I think there's got to be kind of that refocus cue or that center cue. Where do their eyes go? Does it go across, the room or the field? Or does it go to something really close to us? But it's got to be something that helps us focus and we take that deep breath. That's the best routine. Simple is powerful.
Okay, simple, physical, and breath. I like that. I like being able to simplify it like that too. 3 words. That's great advice. I think I might steal that one. Don't worry, I'll credit you.
Got it, man.
That's really good. Okay, so say someone's listening to this and they feel like maybe they don't have the highest level of mental toughness. But they know they want to start working on it. They have the work ethic to begin. What would you recommend for something to get started today, to start to build and develop their mental toughness a little bit more?
Man, that's a great question, because I think the number one is the awareness. Why do we say like we're not mentally tough? And what's the story that we're telling ourselves? I think we got to rewrite that MP3 player that's going in our head all the time. The best place to start is really just that awareness, and where do our thoughts go when we get under stress, and where do our thoughts go when we get under pressure. And the other part is the only way to get better at something is to practice it. So we've got to put ourselves under those moments of stress, under those moments of pressure. That's how we know where our mind's going to go. So for example, every single athlete that I work with, I give them a notebook. And they've got to record on their notebook, some specific things that I have. And that way we're tracking their performance or tracking where their mind goes. And what I want to be able to do is twofold. We're trying to build the synapses of our confidence. And then 3 months down the road, I need them to look back and say, man, when I was rocking it, like when I was playing my best or performing my best, what was I doing? And then they can go back and they look at that specific date and say, yeah, that's right. I wasn't focused on the outcome. I was just focused on the process. And I think that's always the best way to start with our mental toughness training.
That's great. I think that's an amazing way to kind of keep track of it, and really great advice for anyone out there listening to start kind of finding out where they're at and looking back, being able to look back and recall that. And that kind of brings me to the end before we hop into the quickfire questions. But I did want to ask you if there's anything else, something I should have asked you but I didn't about mental toughness. Is there anything that you could think about?
I think so. Well, I'll just add thing. I've got so much. I love what I do. I love helping athletes just get to where they want to go. And a lot of the times, mental toughness, we think is about performing well under pressure, and it is. But the other part about mental toughness is how do we respond, how do we cope, and how do we handle that adversity that we know is going to hit. And it's just, a lot of times we just think it's all about us when it's not. I think we've got to have other people around us that are trying to do what we're trying to do. We've got to have coaches that are, showing us how to do it, and then just that belief that we can get that stuff done. So I guess my point is the environment that we are in makes such a difference on how good that we can become.
And that's actually something I've been focusing on And it wasn't even necessarily to build my mental toughness, but I'm glad to hear that it works as well as just trying to surround myself with, the right people and being in places that inspire me rather than anything that pulls me down or messes with my attitude or my well-being. And I feel like everything in my life gets better when I'm doing those things properly. I'm in the right environment, I'm around the right people, and I'm inspired. Everything in my life is so much better than the opposite, obviously. But
it really is. Iron sharpens iron. We're either a fountain or a drain.
And that's really great. All right, Dr. Bell, are you ready for the quick fire questions of the show?
Let me take a deep breath, man.
All
Okay,
right.
go.
All right. First, what is the hardest workout you've ever done?
Hardest workout I've ever done. I would probably say this. I mean, it'd have to be something out of my comfort zone. I swam master swimming, and on New Year's Day, they always do the toughest. They do 100 hundreds. And you got to keep that on time. That's the toughest one.
That sounds pretty tough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably like on 145. It might even been like 2 minutes of just trying to hold that interval. You kind of lose count. You forget what you're doing. You want to get distracted. And he always hit that point of it really being tough. And, that was the toughest one that I've done.
All right. And I'm pretty sure you've done the EO3 5K too, right? I know that's not the toughest one, but
I love that one. That was a great one. I might even do that one tomorrow. It's Saturday. I might do that one tomorrow.
Yeah, actually that's a good plan. I might do it tomorrow as well. That'll be a good Saturday workout.
Legs burn, man.
Oh yeah. And for all the listeners, I'll put that workout in the show notes if you guys want to check it out. All right, next question. In your opinion, what's the best activity for building mental toughness?
The best activity. Is this like the off-the-wall one?
It can be anything. So it just
whatever I think.
Yeah, I'd prefer it be like an actual activity, like something that someone can do to start to build mental toughness.
Okay, I got it right here. So one time when I was caddying a PGA event, they had a storm that came through, knocked all the power out, and I was forced to take cold showers all week. I had no choice. So one of the things to do is at the end of our shower, turn it on cold, get it through that 30 seconds. You're going to notice right away where your thoughts go, and you got to get a little strategy to get through that. Easiest way, develop mental toughness, those cold showers.
And I'm a huge fan of the cold showers. And what's really interesting, Joe DeSena, we had him on the podcast. He's also the founder of the Spartan Race. He said the exact same thing that you did. So that's really cool. That a lot of people, high level individuals like yourself, are saying cold showers. 'Cause it's such a simple thing, but it really can build your mental toughness. That's really awesome.
Yeah, and it's amazing because the fear creeps in a little bit. We start wanting to talk ourselves out of it. And it's not going to kill us. It's not going to even harm us one bit.
Right.
But there's that fear to it, and that's what part is, getting over that fear and that self-talk.
That's awesome. All right, so last quickfire question. If you could only have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Chin-up bar.
All right. Yeah, you can do a lot of stuff with that. All right, now my favorite question of the show, your best advice you have for becoming a better human, 100% open-ended.
My best advice for becoming a better human. For things to get better, we have to get better. And we're so interested in improving ourselves, but we're not really willing to work at it. And I think to get to where we want to go, into that belief that we really need, we've got to focus on making ourselves a better person. So one of the things that I really like is this: if we're trying to improve, we usually add something. I think that's in order to get really good at something, we got to add something every day. And I think in order to get great, I think we got to remove something.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, like my original point, like something off the field stuff is, I think we need to remove stuff more than add stuff. And I think that's the way that we get, better. I think for things to get better, we have to get better. And it's just about removing the distractions and removing the things that we don't want.
And I really love that. So you saying So step one for people is like generally to add something. You're saying to get to that next level is to start removing things from your life that necessarily don't need to be there.
The mental game is more about subtraction than it ever is about addition. And the reason why I say that is because working with an elite drummer, he one time he had every gadget that was set up on to do his set when he was drumming. And then he removed like 3 or 4 different things, and he said he played better than what he ever did. And that's all the proof I needed. So a lot of times there's just that one thing that we just need to remove it from our lives. It's not adding value to us. We don't get better that way.
I really love that. It goes back to your simplicity principle, too, of keeping things simple all the way back to the routines and stuff. So I think that's good.
Simple is powerful.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Bell, I know that you have a ton of stuff going on. You got books and everything. So what's the best place for people to learn more about you, what you're doing? Maybe they can read some of your books. Anything you got, what do you have for our listeners?
Well, absolutely. My website is drrobbell.com. I've got a free film on mental toughness if they sign up for the weekly mental toughness newsletter. It comes out every Friday. Working on, and Twitter as well is at Dr. Rob Bell. I love Twitter.
Yeah.
And now I'm working on my 4th book. The 4th book's going to be out in the fall. Just had Chuck Pagano write the testimonial for it, and it's going to be for sport parents on how to help your kids build mental toughness. And I don't want to give out the title just yet, but I definitely think the listeners are going to like it. And if they sign up for the newsletter, they'll get an advanced copy. And it's really going to be. It's been a lot of fun writing it, but it's going to be a lot of fun, I think, getting into people's hands.
And I can't wait to read it. I've loved all of your stuff so far, so I'm going to definitely recommend to all the listeners to go check out his website, read his books. Really great stuff. And a lot of the stuff that we covered today comes from the Hinge, so I recommend everyone pick up that book if they can. I found it really powerful and inspirational, Dr. Bell, so I appreciate you sending that to me.
Thanks so much, man. I enjoyed it, dude. I love your stuff, too.
Thanks. And so thanks for being on the show. Maybe we can do it again sometime. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Let's do it in the fall.
All right, man.
Cheers.